Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Rocket Chiro Podcast, a business and marketing podcast for chiropractors. My name's Jerry. I'm your host. I'm a former chiropractor. I help chiropractors now with websites and local SEO. I help new chiropractors get started. I help stuck chiropractors get unstuck, and I host this little podcast. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about local SEO, and I don't even know if this is actually going to be a good topic for the podcast because it's more helpful, I think, if there's some visuals that go along with it. And I just generally don't do that with a podcast. Like most of the people that are podcast listeners of mine are just listeners of the podcast. They don't watch me on YouTube. So I'm not going to do visuals. I will say this, that if you are a member of mine, or if you're a Next Step member, or you have your website client of mine and you have access to Next Step, if you check out the local SEO section, there is a video that I put in there just today that I go over this topic, and I actually show you some different heat maps and kind of give you some examples of how local SEO is affected based on where you're at and the terms that are being searched. And so for those of you who that applies to, you can kind of get that extra visual element. What I want to actually talk about is that I've had people reach out to me and ask me that they're not ranking well in the town like next to them. And I'll use St. Louis as an example just because I've lived here in the St. Louis area my whole life. And like Logan is out in Chesterfield, Missouri. And if you were in Chesterfield, Missouri as a chiropractor, the natural organic thing would be to rank well for Chesterfield chiropractor. If you said to yourself, well, I'm ranking well as Chesterfield chiropractor, but I want to rank well in town and country as town and country chiropractor, that's what we're talking about. Is that possible to do? What are the situations where that's possible? Why is it so difficult? And we'll sort of unpack that a little bit, because it's not impossible, but it is really, really difficult if you don't have certain exceptions that are in place that make it possible. And that's what we're going to talk about on this podcast. Now, before I get into that, I do want to say, if you want some additional help that goes beyond the podcast, check out my Next Step program. It's great for chiropractors that are getting started. It's great for chiropractors that are feeling a little bit stuck. Like I feel like I sort of specialize in chiropractors, like micro practices, small practices, and like medium-sized practices. I don't have a lot of really huge practices that I work with as websites clients, SEO clients, and even with a Next Step. So that's sort of my kind of niche of people. When people get a hold of me and they're just getting started and they're like, oh, I'm wanting to start a practice, or I want to start a micro practice, do you think that these things would help? And I'm like, yeah, that's sort of my thing. And maybe I should communicate that better. But that's sort of my demographic. If you want me to actually help you with your website or local SEO, reach out to me through Rocket Chiro. I'd be happy to do that. If you have an existing website and you want me to look at it and see how you compare to other chiropractors in your area, then just request a free website and SEO review. I'll look at your stuff. I'll send you a video. It'll be a private video, and it's actually me looking at your stuff. So it's not just something generic that I send to everybody. So if you want that for free, you can get all that at Rocket Chiro. Or if you want to work together, that's where you start. Okay. So kind of like I said before, like if you're in a particular town, and we'll use Chesterfield as an example. If you're in Chesterfield, you would rank well, you would optimize your website in most cases for Chesterfield chiropractor. The reason that you don't rank well in town and country per se is because two of the big factors that are involved with local SEO are going to be proximity, like where you're actually located. So the physical location of your practice and the address of your practice. And then next is going to be the density of chiropractors that are in your actual area. Now, there was a point in time where you could just slap a bunch of city names on your website and you would benefit from that, but that time is long gone. Like Google knows exactly where your practice is located. And so trying to do stuff like that is sort of foolish and silly. When you are in Chesterfield, for example, and you're saying, I want to rank well as specifically the searches would be chiropractor near me in town and country, or somebody searching town and country chiropractor. The problem with ranking well in Chesterfield, if your practice is there and you want to rank well over in town and country, the problem with that is the fact that there's 20 chiropractors in town and country. There's 15 chiropractors. There's 50 chiropractors in town and country. There's a lot of chiropractors there. And if there was nobody between you and there, or there's very few chiropractors between you and there, that makes the likelihood of you ranking well for that search really good, actually, because Google says, well, I know they're looking for a chiropractor near them, but there aren't any chiropractors near them. And there's this really great chiropractor that's 10 minutes down the road. Like that's where you can rank well when you have like a low density of chiropractors. Or if someone says, I'm looking for town and country chiropractor, and Google looks at it and says, well, there's like 5 or 6 chiropractors here, but none of them are really, I don't have a lot of trust in them. They don't have a lot of reviews. Like I don't know a lot, but there's this really great chiropractor 10 minutes away, has a lot of reviews, has a great website. Like people seem to love it. There's a lot of traffic there. I'm going to refer you there. And so those are going to be the exceptions. But if there's a lot of chiropractors in the town that you're hoping to rank well for that you're not in, and to make it worse, if some of those chiropractors have decent local SEO, even if you did everything right, even if you hired some amazing local SEO expert that was brilliant and did everything right and just was checking all the boxes, the likelihood of you outranking someone who's actually in the town and they're doing all the things right from a local SEO standpoint is slim to none, because they have that proximity advantage. And I don't want to sound like I'm talking down to people that are listening to this, but when someone searches chiropractor near me and they're in town and country, Google is like, well, town and country is near you. Like it takes that question seriously. When someone searches town and country chiropractor, Google assumes that you mean what you say, and you're saying, I'm looking for a chiropractor in town and country. It doesn't pop up and say, did you mean Chesterfield? Like it doesn't do that. It only does stuff like that when you misspell things like I do, because I went to Christian school and I'm terrible at spelling. Ooh, I mean, genuinely terrible at spelling. Sidetrack. So that's sort of the downside that you put yourself in. Now, there are some exceptions, and I sort of alluded to 2 of them. I'll talk about a third one real quick, and then we'll just kind of get into things that you can get a broader reach for, because there are plenty of terms that you can have a much broader reach, but the near me searches and the chiropractor in a particular town searches, those are really, really difficult when you're not in the actual area. What are the exceptions? The exceptions are going to be if there's not a lot of chiropractors in your area, if nobody in the area has good local SEO. Ideally, if both of those situations arise, that'd be great. The third one would be if you're sort of in a gray area. I have a doc that is in Australia that's one of my local SEO clients. He's one of my website clients. And he sort of falls into this category where his actual address is a particular town. And we're trying to get him to rank well for the bigger kind of town that he's in, sort of the metro area. And it is definitely a gray area. And what I mean by gray area is like he doesn't actually have, it's like the example we use, like he doesn't have the town and country address, but the town and country address is the big metro area, and he's technically in that big metro area. And so it definitely is like a gray area. It would be like someone in, Clayton, Missouri, or someone in town and country ranking well for St. Louis chiropractor. Well, you're not technically in St. Louis, but you're not technically not in St. Louis. It's just sort of a gray area. That's where you do have some potential. And I would say that those are the 3 scenarios that exist where you do have potential to make some decent progress with ranking well in a town you're not in for those near me searches and for those chiropractor XYZ town that I'm not in searches. And that is not a lot of chiropractors, bad local SEO, or in a metro area. Ideally, the more of those factors that you have in place, the more likely you're going to, the potential is there and it's worthwhile. It's like worth spending your time and effort on. So if somebody gets a hold of me and they're like, hey, I want to rank well. And I had someone do this recently where they're like, I rank really well where I'm at. I want to rank well, a little bit further away. Is this possible? I didn't take that person on as a client just blindly. I looked into what's the competition like? Where are they at? How are they ranking? When we expand this map, like what does it look like? And I tried to talk to the client about like, hey, here's the downside of doing this. Here's the upside of doing this. Here's where your potential is. Like, here's where I think our limitations are at. Is it still something that you're interested in doing? Because I like to go into situations like that eyes wide open. And if I was a chiropractor in practice trying to handle my own local SEO or trying to manage some of that myself, I would want to go into that situation as much eyes wide open as possible. Now, if you've ever done my website and SEO review, I use a tool called Local Falcon. It's not something that is unique to me. It's not my software. It's something that you could actually purchase yourself. And I'm not an affiliate of theirs. I don't make any money by you using their software. But if you want to do some of this yourself and you want to track some of your own keywords, I think it's a really great tool, and it's really affordable too. It's not expensive. There are some that are really, really expensive, and there are some that are really unreliable. This one I feel is pretty consistent, pretty reliable, and I think very affordable. So if you're interested in a tool like that, and I've had people that have reached out for a website and SEO assessment, and then they reach out to me like 6 months later. How am I doing now? It's like, no. My free stuff stops with one, right? It's like, I'm not going to continue to monitor your SEO just because you reach out to me and you ask. So if you're interested in doing that yourself, Local Falcon is actually the tool that I use. All right, so let's talk about some searches that you can get wider reach. And this would fall into the category of just good principle, good strategy if you're trying to rank well and you're trying to get as many patients from Google as possible. Searches like sports chiropractor, Gonstead chiropractor, activator chiropractor, AK chiropractor, chiropractor for kids, chiropractor during pregnancy, chiropractor for whatever, any secondary services or tertiary services that you offer that have less competition. The reason all of these searches have the potential to have broader reach is because anytime you search sports chiropractor versus just chiropractor, you're narrowing that search. So you are artificially reducing the amount of competition that you have. Like I say like the person searching is doing it, whether they know they're doing it or not. So the example that I use a lot when I talk to people about this is we have a golden doodle. And when we were looking for a groomer, like I just typed in like, groomer, like our groomer during COVID and stuff had stopped doing stuff and we needed to find somebody to cut the dog's hair. And I was like groomer, and tons of stuff came up. And I was like, this is not actually all that super helpful. Like it's almost too much. So I typed in golden doodle groomer or doodle groomer. And when I typed in doodle groomer, it narrowed it down to like 4 or 5 places. And so I went from, 100 options to 4 or 5 options. And the reason these people popped up were different reasons. Like a couple of people had reviews that mentioned doodles. One person had mentioned it on their Google business profile. I think another one had it on their website. I think that was kind of basically where that came from. But what happened is they weren't competing against 100 different places that had mentioned doodles. And the crazy thing is, like, it's entirely possible that of the 100 people that showed up when I just typed in groomer or dog groomer, it's possible that 50 of them or 75 of them would be perfectly fine doing doodles, but they didn't put that information out there in a way that Google knows that they did it. And so that's what I mean when I say like you're artificially cutting down the pool. So when we get into like good SEO practices, and we'll kind of move into this now, the best SEO practices are going to be, number one, is optimizing and trying to do the best you possibly can for the town you're actually in, with very few exceptions to that. There are some exceptions, very few exceptions. So you want to have the best possible SEO for the most things that are applicable to you. So this sort of takes us into those secondary searches of like sports chiropractor, chiropractor during pregnancy, chiropractor for kids, Gonstead chiropractor, upper cervical chiropractor, whatever that happens to be. Like if I have a decent number of upper cervical clients now, and it's like checking their rank for upper cervical chiropractor or upper cervical near me is sort of silly because most upper cervical chiropractors aren't in an area where there's like 50 other upper cervical chiropractors. So it's like, okay, you're in the top 3. Like, what do you want me to do? Like, you're in the top 3. Like, there's only 3 of you guys. And so making sure that you sit down, whether it's you by yourself or your web person or your local SEO person, and says, like, what is the stuff that applies to us that people might actually be looking for? And just making sure that that information is presented in a way that Google understands that that's actually what you do. And so optimize for the town you're in and optimize for the services and the things that are most applicable to what you do, and especially the stuff that separates you from other chiropractors. If you're going to optimize for what I would consider long shot terms, which would fall into the category of I'm in Chesterfield, but I want to rank well in town and country. If you're going to optimize for long shot terms, just do it eyes wide open. Just make sure that whoever you're working with has done the research, has seen whether it's worth doing or not. You yourself have done the research to see whether it's worth doing, because it might not be worth doing at all. I mean, if you're in Frisco or Dallas, or you're in Atlanta, or you're in like a really, really dense chiropractor area, and then you're like, not only do I want to rank well for Frisco, but I want to rank well for Dallas also, and for Fort Worth. And it's like, okay, you're crazy. Like, run ads. Like, there's no way in the world that you're ever going to do that, no matter what. There's too many people in your area that are competition, and there's way too many people doing really good SEO. It's no freaking way that that's possible. So you could waste your time if you want to, but I would not do that. I would never take a client on with those expectations, because I know what the playing field looks like, and that's not a playing field where that particular strategy works. So just make sure that if you're going to do long shot terms, that you're doing it eyes wide open. As always, I would just recommend being skeptical of things that sound easy, fast, or like a secret. I'm not a fan. I would even say be careful of things that sound overly complicated. And I know I say that after doing a podcast and I've talked for 15, 20 minutes telling you stuff that sounds really complicated, but I would say that SEO, there's just a lot of moving parts and pieces, and there's a whole bunch of stuff you can't control even if you do everything right. But if somebody makes it sound so ridiculously complicated and they're not willing to explain it, they're not trying to explain it, and they're just making it sound difficult, and then they're offering to sell you something for thousands of dollars. Like, sometimes website and SEO people make things deliberately sound complicated so that you'll just pay them to do it, and they could kind of charge you a ridiculous fee. And so I'm not a fan. I don't think you have to understand it all, especially if you're getting help. But I do think that if you're working with somebody who's purposely trying to make things sound difficult, that's a red flag. Last thing I would just say is this: just be careful spending money on SEO. Like I said, if you're in an environment where this is never going to happen, like if you're in an environment where it's like that particular strategy is not going to work because of this, and this, or it's such a long shot that it's like spending hundreds of dollars or thousands of dollars a month trying to do that is a fool's use of money. If that's the case, just don't do that. And I know this is hard when you're in a situation where you don't know, but just be careful. It's easy to waste money on SEO. And even if you're doing everything right, and even if the strategy is good, the location seems good, there is no guarantee. And so just be careful with this. I've talked to some people recently who have spent a good amount of money on local SEO. I don't think the people that were helping them were really telling them the truth about what to expect. I also think that they were a little hands off. Like, it sounds like the people that I was talking to, like it was a couple different people, it sounds like they were a little too trusting and maybe not skeptical enough. And I don't think that that's helpful if you find yourself like 6 months, it's been a year, there's no update, there's no information, there's nothing. There's no signs of improvement. There's nothing. And you're just kind of getting like hey, trust me, it takes time. A level of skepticism, I think, is, you got to balance that with proper expectations, but a level of skepticism, I think, is good SEO practice. So that's my thought. I mean, honestly, like my approach and my recommendation, my simple recommendation is have really, 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 really strong SEO within the stuff that makes the most sense and the low-hanging fruit, and let that radiate out into the surrounding areas. I think that if you're just trying to jump out to a different area and you start ignoring the stuff that makes the most sense, that always hurts you in the long run. So I don't think that's smart. All right, guys, that's it. I'm going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for your reviews in Apple Podcasts as well as on Google. I got a couple, like 6 or 7, like fake Google reviews the other day. I got those removed because somebody told me their food was cold, and somebody else told me the server was bad. And somebody left me a bunch of bad reviews on Google and then offered to remove them for a fee. So got that taken care of. But for legit people who have left me a review, I really do appreciate it. If you want some help with your stuff, reach out to me through Rocket Chiro. If you know a chiropractor who would benefit from the podcast, please share this with them. That would be super cool. Podcast is small. My business is small, so I always appreciate referrals. I'm done, guys. I'll talk to you later.